Hey friends, welcome to Season 2, Episode 4, Raising Your Kids to be Healthy and Adventurous Eaters. As an in-demand woman, especially as a mama, meal prepping, cooking, and making sure your family gets fed healthy food can be super stressful. At least that's been my experience. This week's guest on Sassy AFTV is Robin Deem, a food blogger and healthy eating connoisseur. Through her blog and video courses on Cali girl cooking, Robin teaches in-demand mamas how to meal prep smarter, not harder, as an act of self-care. We talk about the importance of connecting through food and how eating healthy needs to be treated like any other good habit. After watching this episode, you will never be a short order cook in your own kitchen again. As Robin says, you are in control of your health and your family's health. Let's dive into this week's episode. Welcome back to another episode of Sassy AFTV. I'm Hallie Avolio, and I'm so excited to be here with Robin Deem of Cali Girl Cooking. She's going to talk to us about something that is so critical and so hard to manage sometimes, eating and nutrition and meal planning. That's why I feel like eating, nutrition, and meal planning, Robin, for real. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you. And it's so fun because we actually live in the same town, which is amazing. And it's actually funny that we just met recently, even though we've lived in the same town, town for, a long time, but.
For sure. And I feel like it was meant for us to meet. We can have so many ways we love to help each other. And I
know. It's really so fun.
Same wavelength.
I totally agree. So you're a food blogger, you're a food guru, you've been in the culinary world for a long time. What is like your ultimate favorite thing to eat or prepare or serve to people?
Oh, that's so hard because I like so much food.
Me too.
But I would say it's probably like pasta dishes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What kind of pasta dishes?
All different kinds. They're not always like, you can make them nutritious, but they're kind of like an indulgent meal per se. But I think I really like the fact that they're like family centric and you can all eat them together. And you can make pasta in so many different ways. I love even making homemade pasta, but it's a lot of work. I don't really have the time to do that these days. So, but yeah, I think I'm a big fan of Italian cooking. So just kind of reminds me of trips to Italy and again, bringing people together and a great way to connect and just so many different ways to customize.
I love that. Well, in Italian culture, my husband's family is Sicilian, which I guess if you ask Italians versus Sicilians, it's like a definite divide, but it's in the same general space, right? But they're very family oriented, especially around food, which, I think that that's amazing. And of course, who doesn't like to come together around the table with food as kind of the center point to have conversation and to, throw your hands up in the air and all the things. So.
Right. And I always say, we're always looking for more family time. Our lives are so busy these days. And it is super important to connect with everyone. And we all have to eat. So why not take that as an opportunity to all get together and chat, whenever your schedule allows. We're not asking for all or nothing because that would be impossible. But just making it a point, whenever you can to sit together and connect, and like eating brings people together. So, and it nourishes us, it feeds our souls, it feeds our, the physical parts of our body and can really have an effect on your mood too.
Absolutely. Did you grow up having a lot of family dinners in your household?
We did. Yeah. As my siblings and I got older, I would say it got a little harder with all of our like family activities, but certainly whenever we could, we would all sit together. My parents were really great about having a pretty well-rounded meal on the table every night. Your meat, your starch, and your vegetable. Right. I don't know how creative I would say they were, but, they did what they could to bring us all together whenever we could.
Right. Yeah. I grew up, we ate family dinners together almost every night, as far as I can remember. We even did family breakfast, and I don't even know how that's possible. My kids are, 11, 9, and 6, and I'm just lucky if anybody eats food before they get out the door and get to school. So having family breakfast, I mean, on the weekends, you know, we might have one morning where we have family breakfast where I make pancakes or something, but, yeah, I don't know how we did it, but we did. I remember we sat down and it was like a very specific thing. And like, you know, I thank my mom for that and my dad, but I think it was really my mom's intention was to have us sit down and come together, like you said, and have that communication, go around the table. What did you do today? And who did you talk to? And what did you learn at school? And all of those conversations that come up, all centered around, you know, the meal, which I think is such a beautiful connecting point for your family.
And also taking it as an opportunity to disconnect.
Yes.
Phones down and not being on our phones during meals. You know, it's really important not only for ourselves while we're eating to be present, but also for our family. So
that's a good point. Well, and when we were growing up, right, of course there were not phones. Correct. But this is interesting. I don't know what your experience was when I was growing up. So the way that my house was set up, the kitchen area, so there was like a kitchen and then kind of a countertop island and then an eating area, but we were not near the TV. So we did not have a TV in the kitchen. So we always sat down and ate and talked, but I had a lot of friends that had a TV in the kitchen. And so that was the thing that was, you know, probably most equivalent right now to the phones, right? So did you grow up with TV in the kitchen at dinner, or how did that work in your house?
Our TV, it's very interesting. And actually it started bothering me as I got older. Our dining room was like quite removed from the TV, but there was like a direct shot through the kitchen from the dining room to the downstairs where the TV was. So you could see it. And like my parents would just leave it on. So it's not like we were watching it, but we're like, I was always like, why do you need to have the TV on?
Right. But that's it's such a shift in time and culture, right? Because I remember that too, like often the TV would just be on, even if no one was really particularly watching. And then I remember having, you know, some meals where we would sit specifically in front of the TV, but that was like a special occasion.
Like Friday nights, like TGIF.
Yeah, exactly. Although actually, this is really funny. So I'm quite a bit older than my brother. And when I was much younger, my parents really loved 60 Minutes. So I remember Sunday nights was when 60 Minutes was on, and it was just me and my parents. And I must have been, you know, between 4 and 6 or so that I'm having this memory. And we would eat ribs. That was like the Sunday night tradition, was ribs and 60 Minutes.
Yep. It's so funny how we remember those things.
Right.
Around food.
Yes, so I was just thinking that. So how did you get into tell us about, you know, your background and how did you get into food blogging? Where did this come from?
Oh, okay. I'll try to make this as short as possible. It was a long circuitous road.
Those are the best ones.
Yeah. So I actually grew up really busy, really active. I danced competitively since I was 5. And then I started doing volleyball year round in high school. So I was always really busy and really active. I'm very tall. I'm 6'.
Oh, I love that.
So I guess I was always a little bit self-conscious of my size, especially when I was dancing. And then moving into volleyball, I just kind of started getting a little bit, when I was too young, like 4th grade or so, getting a little too obsessive about what I was eating. And I was also picky too. So I wasn't eating very much variety and I wasn't eating enough calories. So this kind of all continued. I ended up getting a scholarship to college to play volleyball. And about a couple years into volleyball, and my coach made me go see a nutritionist because she said I was losing too much weight for how active we were spending so much time in the gym. So I went to see the nutritionist. I don't know that it really had that much effect on me. I was really kind of internalizing a lot of stuff that was happening. But when I graduated and I was out on my own for the first time, I really started enjoying cooking for myself. And, you know, it sounds bad, but it all kind of stemmed from I enjoyed having control over what I was eating.
Right.
So I could control what I was putting into my body, the ingredients that I was using. And I just kind of used cooking as an outlet in many different ways. And then it took a couple years, but I ended up getting a lot more self-assured, more confident in myself. Kind of the issues I had been battling with in growing up and in college kind of, I wouldn't say faded away, but you go through stages of life, right, where you're happy or where you're not so happy. I was a lot more happy. And I started seeing how much like cooking, and especially cooking for others, brought me so much joy. And I also started eating more diverse foods and realizing how much I had been missing out on. So I really started getting into trying new recipes. I would come up with recipes of my own, creating all these new flavors, and people wanted me to start sharing them. So I was like, oh, well, great. There's this thing called a food blog now. I guess I'll start that. And this was in like 2010. I was like, well, I can just put my recipes online and just tell my friends and family where they can go find them so they don't have to ask me about it, you know?
I love it. I love it.
So that's what I started doing. And, you know, I was working in the meantime. I was in hospitality and event management. So that kept me busy. But I really just grew to love the food and beverage side of things.
Mm-hmm.
I started studying wine. Fun random fact, but I'm a level 1 sommelier and a certified specialist of wine. So I studied for all of that while I was amping up my culinary game. I went to a little bit of culinary school. I'm a culinary school dropout, but and I worked in a kitchen for a while at a restaurant. And I just really started getting into it. I moved to Napa for a bit. And then I'd say in about 2014, I started realizing that, hey, this food blogging thing can actually be like a career. These people are doing it as a living. And I was like, well, wouldn't that be fun? I would love to do that, because my blog had always kind of had the back burner. You know, I would post when I had time, but I was seeing all these people that had started their blogs at the same time as me and were now killing it because they'd just taken it a little bit seriously and figured out how to make money from it. So I decided that's what I wanted to do. And I started in 2014 really focusing on it and trying to make it a legit business. And luckily, the food blogging business has been booming. So there are a lot of resources. And then I had my daughter.
And that changes everything.
And my food blog turned into more of a food and parenting blog. And I have always been really, really passionate about it, but I would say having the blog and having a voice to share with so many people makes me more passionate about it. As soon as I became pregnant, I knew I wanted to raise my daughter to have a really, really healthy relationship with food. So I started reading everything there was, learning everything there was on how to do that, and became quite the expert in as far as feeding little ones and just how to get them to have, you know, be healthy and adventurous eaters from the get-go. So that's kind of what I focus a lot on now, is helping families, helping moms especially feed their little ones and make them not so picky, because that's a big, big thing. And also for moms to manage their time, because I know more than ever, you know, when you're a mom and also when you're trying to work or run a business, it's just so difficult. So my goal is to make it easier and share all of the knowledge that I've learned in raising my daughter so far with other moms, so that they can make delicious, nutritious food and make it stress-free and enjoyable.
That's awesome. I mean, and I'm sure so many people in the audience can relate to, you know, both having the in-demand lifestyle where it limits you potentially from being able to, you know, prepare the meals, make healthy food for your family, etc., and also dealing with, you know, picky eaters. And, you know, for my family, we've always, you know, we started with vegetables. I know, you know, in the beginning, I actually started making food for my kids because I didn't want to give them the jars. They just kind of grossed me out. I was like, I can make pureed food, vegetables and whatnot, and fruits pretty easily. But I remember starting with vegetables, where a lot of people would start with fruits because they like them. But my kids have always been, you know, good eaters and good vegetable eaters. And my husband and I both subscribe to the philosophy of like, hey, we're not a short order cook. Now on occasion, we will, because, you know, special occasion. But generally speaking, if I serve dinner, you eat what's on the table. You know? And that's that. So I don't tolerate that kind of like, well, sorry, I only eat this vegetable and I only eat this vegetable, and that doesn't work for me.
And I hate to say it, and I'm not saying this to call any parent out, because I know life just gets crazy, but raising healthy, adventurous eaters is as much about the parent's mindset change and willing to do certain things. And you got to hold your ground sometimes, because we all know that little ones have their own desires and steadfastness and fits. And it's just learning, you know, you're the parent, these are the rules, and this is what you'll eat, you know, not forcing it on people in a way, but, you know, we'll find something that you like, it will be served. You know, it's all about finding the middle ground too. So I always say, if you're going to serve something that you're not sure your kid will eat, like, throw in something that you know they'll eat. So at least they'll, you know, if you're serving an Indian dish or something like, and your child loves cauliflower, just roast some cauliflower on the side, you know, and serve it as part of the meal. But that way it's still part of the meal, but it's not that you're cooking something completely different and special for them.
Right. Right. Absolutely. I love that. I love that moderation approach. And especially, you know, pick your battles, right? Is this the sword you want to die on? Like, I'm not going to serve you cauliflower, even though I know you're going to eat it. Or
Right.
because I want you to try broccoli. Or do you offer both? And you say, could you at least try one piece of broccoli? And if you don't like it, that's fine. Here's your cauliflower also, or whatever the thing is.
Exactly. Exactly. And also I'm getting into the kid side of things, but another really important thing to remember is like not to look at every meal necessarily, but look at the day as a whole or the week as a whole.
When you know, have everything in moderation, right? And look at the holistic timeline as opposed to really honing in on, oh, well, they didn't eat this thing in this meal and then having a panic attack about it.
Right. Because I mean, just as all of us, kids have certain things going on in their life. They may be extra tired one day, or they may have just had a rough day emotionally, or they may have eaten a big snack at a friend's house or something like that. So it's important not to focus on the minutiae. And that goes exactly for families too. You know, when we're talking about healthy eating habits for families, I really like to stress the point that it's not an all or nothing thing. You know, if I'm saying you shouldn't be having family dinners, I understand that you can't do family dinners every single night. Just do them as often as you can.
Right.
Make a healthy meal as often as you can. But I subscribe to everything in moderation, and balance is huge for me. So nothing hard and fast.
You want to hear something that someone just told me, and I can't recall who told me. So if you're watching, you'll have to remind me that it was you that said this. But everything in moderation, even moderation.
Yes.
I thought that was a good one because I was thinking back to your example about the pasta, right?
Yeah.
And you said it might not be the most nutritious things you like, but I think that there's something to be said for having indulgences on a consistent basis, you know, and not even I struggle with the concept of like the cheat meal or the cheat day, you know, using that word cheat as though you're doing something wrong or against what you should be doing. I mean, the thing is, right, we have to enjoy our lives and we have to enjoy what we're doing. And if eating a decadent pasta dish brings you joy, then enjoy it, and probably don't eat it every meal every day.
Right.
But when you have it, enjoy the heck out of it.
Right. Exactly. And if you're practicing everything in moderation, then you have to think about, you know, you have to balance your pasta, right? So you're going to want veggies, and like, that's part of the moderation.
Right. That's a great point. So when you're working with, you know, clients, families, moms, whomever, what are some of the biggest obstacles that you hear from them that you're running against, that they're just like, Robin, I don't know how to do this. This is my struggle.
Mostly it's time. Time and pickiness of their little ones, or whoever, not even their little ones. They can be older kids too. Time is like time and time again, what I hear from people is their biggest struggle. So my response to that is make it a habit. So it's just like working out, right? You have to make healthy cooking for your family a habit, and you have to carve out time for it. Just like date night with your spouse. Like, you have to put it on the calendar and carve out time. It doesn't have to be that much time, but you have to make a date with yourself to devote towards it for it to happen. Because otherwise, it's making it a priority too. And I'm not saying that like meal planning and meal prep has to take over your entire life. I'm talking like 1 or 2 hours a week. Schedule in 1 or 2 hours a week, and you will see such a difference in like your mindset. It'll be such a time saver. You won't be taking millions of trips to the grocery store. That's the number one time suck that I see for people.
Oh gosh. I go to the grocery store at least 3 times a week, at least.
And that takes minimum, even if you're just going in for one thing, it takes at least a half an hour to go from your house to the grocery store. We live 5 minutes from a grocery store, but it still takes me at least a half an hour to go get something and come back. Absolutely. So that, and then the pickiness of the kids. And that's another thing that I try to help with, is just teaching parents how to manage that. It's becomes a little bit harder as the kids get older because they're more steadfast in their habits. So that's why I'm a huge proponent of starting young and building these foundations when kids are young. but it's never too late. I mean, you can always figure out a way to do it. And that's what I try to help people with, is give them the skills to broaden their kids' palates.
Mm-hmm.
And also something that's huge as kids get older is getting them in the kitchen
That's
and
a great
having
one.
them take over one of the nights for cooking, right? How
Yes.
nice would that be?
Yes.
It's great for the kids. It's great skills. I just posted on Facebook a huge article about how beneficial cooking is for kids.
Oh, cool.
And it has all these great points on like what cooking will help kids with. And heck, like, mama, it'll give you a break.
I agree. I'm all about empowering the kids to do the work, whether it's in the kitchen, whether it's doing the laundry, whether it's making their lunches.
And kids love being helpful.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? Like if we ask my daughter to do anything and we say, oh, you would be so helpful if you did this, she just will turn around and do it right away, because she loves to be like that person that just helps do something. I mean, she's only 2, but.
Right. Well, and the accountability piece, and you'll see as she gets older, right, how it changes. But it's funny with my oldest son. So he's been a little bit more resistant to learning how to cook, and we've been teaching him some basics, how to cook eggs, how to saute things on the pan, kind of like the basic skills, how to chop, how to cut, knife skills are really important to learn, right? And to teach him to be confident and not fearful. My daughter, on the other hand, just kind of jumps right in and does. So with her, I have to worry that a little bit that she's too, she's the opposite of being so cautious. But it's interesting with my son, because he's, gotten a little more involved and adventurous in this way. He'll introduce it to his friends. So his friends come over and, he'll help make the lunch or, whatever it is. And he'll say, oh, well, do you want to try this balsamic glaze? It's one of his favorite things. And so many of his friends have been like, huh, what's that? And then they look at it, they're kind of like, I don't know about this. He's like, no, it's so good. And they'll try it and like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So, empowering them to be able to share this knowledge is very cool.
Absolutely. And something that, I try not to take for granted is, yes, like cooking is my life. That's what I do for a living. So naturally my child's going to be exposed to a lot of different flavors, but that's something I try to really teach like my readers and my clients, is how to be more adventurous with their cooking. And it could be as easy as just switching up the spices you use to season your vegetables when you roast them. And I actually have even a whole guide that I've created that I give to my clients that's like a flavor guide. So like you can look up what you're cooking, say it's butternut squash, and there's a whole list of different flavors and spices that go well with it. So you can just like go through and be like, oh, that's something different I could try today. Like you don't even have to think about it. It's all listed there for you. But that's also a great way to expose kids to new things, is through spices and herbs. I mean, they're so healthy, and they just come in such a wide variety of flavors.
And we probably have a lot of them already in our pantry. I mean, I have a pantry recently. It probably wasn't that recently now that I think about it, but we went through the pantry and we got rid of stuff that was old and that had been like shoved into the back of the cabinet and whatever, but pulled out a bunch of stuff. But, I look in my variety of spices and I do have quite a bit of variety in there. So I'm sure but then I've got my go-tos that I always grab, salt, pepper, garlic. Those are my 3. But what else can I grab that, would change it up a little bit, even for my own flavor palette?
Yeah. And that's a big thing I advocate for my clients and my readers is batch cooking. So like recipes every night don't have to be intense and like complicated. So if you spend your meal planning and meal prep time, those 1 to 2 hours I was talking about, batch cooking some things, roast up some vegetables, cook some grains, and cook up some grilled chicken breasts or something like that. You can use the different herbs and spices, try different ones each week so you don't get bored. And then you just have them ready to go during the week. And, you talk about families that maybe have different diets, like have a little something that each person's diet will be fine with, that they can pick and choose from, right? So that's why I love things like Buddha bowls, because you can build your own and customize it to whatever your preferences are.
So what's a Buddha bowl? Walk us through that one.
So Buddha bowls are just a base of grains. It's pretty fluid what a Buddha bowl is, but so you could do quinoa or farro or brown rice or whatever, a protein, whatever protein you want, whether you're vegetarian or meat eating. So grilled chicken, tofu, even beans are great, lentils, and then vegetables. And again, whatever vegetables you want or whichever vegetables you like. And then I'm a big fan of seasoning it with a little like seasoning blend or maybe some tahini sauce or hummus or tamari or just whatever sounds good to you. And it's so easy and you can customize it for your whole family.
Oh, I love that. That sounds really good. It's funny. What we have the go-to is like the taco night. And when I say taco night, of course, I mean nachos, burritos, quesadillas, whatever, taco salad. So I always say taco night, but the fact is probably nobody actually eats taco, but it's that variety, right? So you get to choose what do you want in it? How do you want it prepared? How do you want it seasoned? Do you want it spicy? Do you want it mild? So I love that concept. I'll have to start implementing that in my family. I bet they'd love it.
Yeah. And that's one of the biggest tips I give for families that do have lots of different diets or like picky eaters is serving something that's like a build your own. So you're still serving everyone the same thing, but they can have the autonomy to pick and choose from those ingredients what they want.
Right. So one of the struggles that, I'm hearing you say, I've experienced myself, the time management, right? And it's that when we talk about habits, and this applies to all aspects of life, it's getting started and creating the habit. And if you look at, like James Clear, who's kind of like the habit guru, if you've read Atomic Habits or, followed any of his work, he talks about sometimes you have to have the trigger, right? You have to have the thing that gets you going. So I hear what you're saying, set aside the 1 to 2 hours a week. But in my mind, I'm thinking, well, shit, I don't know where I'm going to find 1 to 2 hours a week. I don't have time to meal prep. I don't have time to do this, even though we have to eat. So I'm just going to stick with my routine, which is not very consistent. So how do we implement the trigger? What is kind of the thing that moves the needle so that we can start to build those habits?
Well, one thing that I can help you out with is my ultimate meal planning toolkit.
Okay, tell us about it.
So I have put together a toolkit that comes with basically all you need that outlines what you need to do to start your meal planning journey. So that's a sheet that's already created for you where you can fill in your meals for each day, a shopping list that's already organized by section of the grocery store, so you can just go in and fill it out, a freezer meal cheat sheet, which I'm a huge fan of freezer meals as well. That's another great way to save time. If you're in the kitchen cooking something, just make extra and freeze it if it's freezer friendly. That's one thing that will really help you. And I would say too, just a mindset change. I know we talk about it a lot of just like, how do you want your family's eating habits to be? Like, think about the end result that you would like. Do you crave, I mean, most families I know, if they're having trouble with meal planning and meal prep and they find themselves in the drive-through line a couple times a week, most families I know aren't too happy with that situation. Like, we do it, but we know we should be doing better. So my challenge to you would be to imagine and visualize the end result that you're looking for. Imagine your family sitting around a table every night. Imagine them, or almost every night. Imagine everyone eating the same thing. Imagine you not having to cook something different for every single person in your family. And just think about how much time that will save you. So what we're trading an hour to 2 hours of meal planning and meal prep for tons of time saved throughout the week. So it's like a bargaining tactic, right? You take 1 to 2 hours to plan everything out. You save yourself, I would argue, 6 to 8 hours during the week. So it's like, you got to weigh those.
Right. And a bargaining tactic with ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I absolutely love visualization. I think you're right. You got to know your why and you got to think at what's the end result, always keep the end in mind. And I'm going to add a little twist on it. So tell me what you think with your visualization.
Yes.
Take an affirmation to implement that you are, in fact, a meal planning goddess or whatever word resonates with you. So if you say to yourself in your visualization, I am a meal planning goddess and I am in control of the healthy food that I eat and that my family eats. And I have the ability to make this change.
Yes. I think I have the ability to make this change is huge because a lot of people get intimidated by cooking and it doesn't have to be hard. I have some basic, tips I give as far as cooking and stuff like that, I'm happy to share with anyone that's interested, but it doesn't have to be complicated. I myself love cooking complicated recipes when I have time.
Right.
But most of the time, and Hallie, I'm sure you've seen on my Instagram, like I don't cook that much complicated stuff. Like it's easy stuff. It's chicken salads. It's lettuce wraps. It's taco night, you know? We just don't have time for it to be too complicated. So
right. And don't overthink it, right?
Yeah, don't overthink it. And cooking healthy food can be so easy.
If you could impart one piece of wisdom that any woman, any mom, any husband, any dad, anybody watching this interview can take away from our conversation today, what do you want them to remember?
I would like them to remember, you to remember, that you are in control of not only your health, but your family's health. And that includes delegating if needed. It includes saving yourself some time by implementing some of these techniques that we've talked about. You know, it's a lot about self-care too, right? It's giving yourself a break. I'm as guilty as anybody else with like not giving myself enough time and self-care. But, you know, implementing a meal plan will save you time. It will save you stress, therefore benefiting yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll just leave room for more fun, more connection, and your health will benefit too.
I love it. I love it. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Robin. This has been super helpful. I mean, I got a lot of great tips that I took from you. And, you know, I'm really going to be focusing in my own life and in my own family is really that visualization of what it looks like when our family comes together in the meal, having the healthful food that helps our fuel our bodies, helps us have more energy, and that, you know, I can empower my family to make those choices as well, which will serve them, you know, for the long haul.
Exactly. And you're setting up your kids for success down the road too, and when they grow up to be adults, by implementing these healthy habits now. So
absolutely. I think that's awesome. And what a shift that you've made. You know, it sounds like you had a fairly decent foundation in your family growing up, but going from being a picky eater to being someone that's now teaching others how to have healthy, adventurous eaters in their own family. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's just, I'm really, really passionate about it. And, you know, it's partly my own experience that makes me want other moms to not experience what my mom did.
Right? Well, that's how we learn the best, right? Or we teach the best.
Exactly.
Well, where can everybody find you, Robin?
Really easy. I'm at caligirlcooking.com and at Cali Girl Cooking on all social media platforms. So Instagram and Facebook and Pinterest I'm most active on. I have a little YouTube channel that I'm working on building as well at Cali Girl Cooking. Yeah, that's where you can find me.
Awesome. And I'll put all your contact information in the show notes, as well as your ultimate meal prep and planning toolkit. Did I say that correctly?
Yes.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. It was a pleasure to talk to you. I'm so appreciative of your knowledge, your insight, and just your beautiful way of explaining how this is not complicated. And this is just something that can be easily implemented into all of our lives. And we're going to all feel the benefit on the other side of it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again so much for having me. It was so fun chatting.
It was so fun. Thank you guys for watching. I'm so happy that you have been here as well. Don't forget to keep tuning in to Sassy AF TV. Make sure you hit subscribe, and we will talk to you next time. Have a great day. Bye. Bye. I especially loved Robin's tip about adding different spices to your cooking to help your kids adjust their palates to different flavors. And how when you do introduce new foods at a meal, also offer a go-to favorite so mealtime doesn't become a battle. Sometimes it's the little things that make all the difference. Thanks again for being here and tuning in for another episode of Sassy AF TV. It would mean the world to me if you would leave a comment and take a screenshot to share it with your tribe on Instagram or Facebook. Don't forget to tag me at Sassy Healthy Fit. Then make sure to head over to sassyhealthy.fit and sign up for our mailing list so you always know the latest and greatest in sassy fun. See you next time.